So starting off right off the bat with the Chosen season 3 intro. I don't know if this is in the other seasons at all, but I've had lots of question on what the heck is this.
Right, because we know the letters.
Yeah, so we've got Bet, right? It's got that ball in the box, and hey. And then it says loaves and fishes underneath of it. So, the opening credits here are different companies that are involved with the production of the series. And so this is their logo, their company name, Loaves and Fishes. But let me find my chart. Where did it go? I thought I had it open. Well, just a second. I tell you. All consonants. So I'm pulling up the alphabet chart that I made. And this is in the back of the yellow book as well. But if we take a look at Bet is associated with the number 2. And the other symbol on there, or Hebrew consonant, was Hey, right? And Hey is associated with the number 5. And so if we took a look at, I'm bouncing all over the place here, trying to screen share back and forth, at loaves and fishes here, Christ fed the multitudes with, I getting these mixed up. Is it 2 loaves and 5 fishes, or
two fish?
2 fish and 5 loaves? Okay. So yeah, that's the gematria behind their logo there, or their company identity. And that's why they picked those 2 characters to represent loaves and fishes, is straight back to the gematria. I believe.
How did you come up with that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so once you're trained in Hebrew math, in gematria, which we'll get to eventually, you'll start recognizing each of those letters in the Hebrew alphabet are associated with a number. They didn't have Roman numerals or the Latin versions that we have today. They had their alphabet, and each of the letters had a different number association with it. And so, yeah, we'll go through learning that.
So is it like a secret code they had? They could write in numbers instead of...
It wasn't necessarily secret. I mean, every Hebrew knew those number associations because that was their math. So if you look at like old math equations, it's just a string of consonants strung together. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so like Bet is the second letter in the alphabet, so it has the 2, and Hey is the 5th consonant that is in the alphabet.
So cool.
Yeah, when we get into that, we'll learn all about which numbers and how they start counting them and stuff. But it's basically without any of the dagesh, those middle beauty marks. They count them forward and.
Do you still have that on your screen?
What was that?
Do you still have the loaves and fishes? I was talking to my husband about this tonight.
Yeah.
Let me just take a picture of this real quick. All right, got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
That way I don't have to look it up. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, it took me a second to find it. I'm like, but my mom was like, oh no, it's at the very beginning. I was looking at it like trying to find it in one of the episodes somewhere, but it's just right at the beginning.
It's at the beginning.
Yeah. All right. So are we ready to kind of take a look at some of this interesting stuff tonight?
Cameron, I just want to say one thing. I know you don't watch The Chosen, but I have learned so much about Hebrew culture, so much watching it. I am so pleased with how much they authenticate.
Yeah, he did a good job with that.
Very educational.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not that I have anything really against it or anything like that. It's just I'm off of all media. I don't watch anything, but
told us that, but I really am. I feel like I'm time traveling.
Yeah, really going back and immersing in it. Yeah, I love it. All right, so this week we are only going to learn one new consonant and two new vowels. So we've already taken a look at Lamed and Mem. We're going to kind of review those really quick. And then we're going to take a look at Mem Sofit. So remember that when a consonant, there's 5 of them. And when those 5 appear at the end of a word, they take on a little bit different look. They typically drop their tail, but in Mem's case, it just closes itself up at the base. So here in the middle is a regular Mem, and that's how it's going to look at the beginning or in the middle of a word. But if it appears at the end of a word, it's just going to kind of shore up its mountain and close its tail here at the base. It doesn't extend down below the baseline, whereas all of the other Sofit do. So taking a look from the blue workbook, here's Mem, looks like a mountain with a flag planted just right before the peak. And it has that opening there. Lamed looks like a lap. I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch, but once you kind of get this image in your mind, you're like, oh yeah, that's what it looks like. I can always, anytime an actual Lamed is presented to me, I can recognize it right off the bat. But sometimes I still have an issue when I'm just trying to write a Lamed. I'm like, oh, okay, how does that look? And I always come back to this lap thing. I'm like, oh yeah, it has the trunk of the person, then the lap, and then the legs kind of curve down. So if those are helpful, you can memorize it that way. But yeah. All right, and then taking a look at 2 new vowels. Now, if any of you have went ahead and studied the vowel chart, you'll notice that this is a little bit different than I put on the vowel chart. So we'll take a look at vowels very heavily next week, that we're basically going to spend the whole time on vowels, and taking a little bit different look at some of the nuances between all of those, right? So this week, we're going to learn Sharuk and Kibbutz. So Sharuk is always accompanied by a Vav. And so it has this Vav, and it has kind of that Dagesh, that beauty mark in the middle of it. Last week, we learned the Cholam male, where the dot was above the Vav. And here that dot has migrated down into the middle here. Very much like any of the other Dagesh that appear in our consonants. So when this this vowel, this Sharuk, is accompanied with this Vav, the Vav doesn't make its normal consonant sound. This is U. And then taking a look at Kibbutz is 3 different kind of slanted dots here, and they're always descending. So they start up at the top left and work their way down, and it is pronounced So there's U, Sharuk, and Kibbutz. So the actual name of the vowel has the sound that it makes. So Shuruk and Kibbutz. Does that make sense?
We need to correct it on this.
Yeah, I'll have an updated vowel chart and everything for next week. So basically, on my original vowel chart, it's more of a kindergarten version, versus we're going to jump ahead and look at a more high school or college level look at vowels. When we're learning it and as little children, we have 2 different versions of each different vowel, but there's a reason that there's 2 different versions. There are slight differences as we start advancing in our grammar.
So wait a second, Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Back of the yellow book, they have the OO, not the UH.
Correct. So Yeah, it'll come next week when we fully pronounce it out. So how do I describe it in a succinct way? So there's the three different pronunciation styles, right? We have the Sephardic, we have Ashkenazi, and we have modern Hebrew. And this yellow book is doing the Sephardic pronunciation. And I was just taking it as face value as, oh, it's an all-encompassing Sephardic pronunciation. But it, come to find out, I've been trying to connect with different professors and scholars and things. And the Sephardic pronunciation has kind of a twofold ancient and modern Sephardic pronunciation. And so, yeah, it can be both ways, depending if you want to go more ancient or more modern. And so next week is when I'll really dive through and show both side by side. And you kind of get to pick what you want to speak. If you want a more ancient version, it's kind of like taking a look at our modern English and our King James Version English, King James Bible, right? So there's kind of some different nuances to the way some things sound. And yeah, but regardless, both are correct. It's just kind of a different dialect of it, kind of a thing. So I wanted to kind of spend a whole week on it and not just try to blast us through it this week. But I thought that it would be handy this week to pull these two sounds apart, the oo and the even though, yeah, in the yellow book, it's going to give that put together as the same sound, which is fine in a very beginning kind of level for now.
Do you have a preference on which version, the older or the more recent?
Yeah, I'm trying to go as ancient as I can to the Masoretic, to the Masoretic original. So they had all of the different vowel sounds and each of the different symbols, but over time, the Sephardic has just kind of truncated and gotten some things just kind of meshed together and became one. Even though you still have different symbols, like we have the patach and the kamatz, but they make the same sound, but originally they didn't. They had two different sounds, and that's why they had two different symbols for it. And so my preference is to go back and see what the difference was and why the Masoretic text has both. Because, but again, if you want to just stick with the chart that we've got, that's totally fine, because you'd still be able to speak it just fine and be understood. There's just a little bit of nuance to that comes through in the grammar. When we actually start drilling and doing grammar exercises, there's going to be rules why you would do a patach versus a kamatz. And so we would be able to actually hear that difference as well. And I think that would be very handy for us to take a look at the ancient versus the more modern Sephardic. So yeah, that was something I learned along the way. I didn't have that under my belt during week 1 and 2. And I was like, as soon as I learned it, I was like, oh no, I just led my class wrong. But anyway, we're kind of going back and correcting it now. And next time I'll have a better way to present week 1 that way. So yeah, I'm just learning Hebrew along with y'all. So sorry about it, but
you don't need to apologize. I just struggle with the vowels. I mean, that is just the worst.
Yeah. Just wait. Today we're going to be struggling with a few of the consonants too. But yeah. So any questions on these two vowels, the shiruk or the kibbutz? So again, that vav doesn't make its normal consonant sound when it is with its dagesh, with the oo sound. It becomes a vowel, just like the yod does when we have a hirik yod or any of that. It becomes part of that vowel, and it kind of drops its consonant status. All right. So let's do syllables. This one's a little bit easier. Well, at least I think so. You tell me after we get through this. So we're going to cover part 1 today, and then we'll do part 2 next week as far as syllables. Looking back, I probably would have ideally done this in week 3, but anyway, we're coming at it now because it's going to start becoming very relevant in the homework for next week. So let's take a look at some of the rules for syllables. So in Hebrew, all syllables begin with a consonant and have only one vowel. And this is a hard and fast rule. Like, there are no exceptions to this. All syllables begin with a consonant, and all syllables have only one vowel. Now, there are some interesting things when we take a look at a shava, because sometimes a shava acts as a vowel and sometimes it acts just as a shortener, but we can memorize this rule. It applies to everything. All syllables begin with a consonant and have only one vowel. But there are 2 types of syllables. There's an open syllable and a closed syllable. So let's take a look here at, sorry, I'm trying to get better with my technology. So a closed syllable has a consonant, vowel, and another consonant. It's closed. Versus a open syllable just has an opening consonant and a vowel. It has no closing consonant. So does that make sense that there's 2 types of syllables? There's an open syllable and a closed syllable. And when we are stringing lots of syllables together to make words, words are stressed on their final syllables. But just like with English grammar, there are lots of exceptions to that rule. That first rule up here is that all syllables begin with a consonant and have only one vowel. That one is always the case, but this one does have quite a few exceptions. So words are stressed on their final syllables, and if there is an exception, an accent is placed over the first consonant of the stressed syllable. So by default, words are stressed on their final syllables, and we don't have to write this little accent mark here above any consonants. But if you do happen to see this little stress symbol above a consonant, you know that there is an exception to this rule. So now that stress moves to where that stress mark is. And it's never placed over the vowel, it's placed over the consonant.
So like if we were pronouncing the word Shabbat, it's Shabbat. That's the stress because that follows the rule, the last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with Shabbat.
Then it would be Shabbat.
Correct. Yeah, Shabbat follows the rule. So that last bat is a closed, so ba, t, bat is a closed syllable, and so that's the final one. So Shabbat, that bat, doesn't need an accent mark over it because it follows the rule. And then that first syllable, Shah, is an open one where it's a sheen and either a patah or kamatz, right? Shah, bat. Yeah.
Hey, can you do that with so you did Shabbat and like that's a regular one, stress, whatever. No, it's not stress. Could you give an example of what that would sound like if you were to do it, if it was stressed? I don't know. Like
Yeah, we'll have lots of examples on following slides here, because this is one that I was like, we're going to need a lot of slides to get some practice with it for sure. So let's take a look at this one. Let's identify, is this an open syllable or a closed syllable? So we have an open, we have a bet with a kamats. It does not have a second consonant with it. So this is an open syllable. And so what kind of syllable is this? Here we have a tav with a sagol and a lamed. So it's a consonant, vowel, consonant. This would be a closed syllable.
I like how you just missed me. Go back again.
Yeah, for sure. There we go.
Wait, do the first one.
Mhm.
Go back one more slide.
Here we go.
Okay, now go to the next slide. Oh, because there's another consonant.
Yeah,
back-
so it's a consonant,
back
vowel,
to-
consonant.
The other one was just a consonant with a vowel underneath it. Okay, got it.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm with you now.
All right, so let's take a look at this one. So technically, I mean, if we were just looking at this, not knowing any vowel rules, right, we would say, oh, consonant, vowel, consonant. But where we do know that there is such a thing as a hirik yod, that is just one vowel now. And so this would be considered an open syllable. It has one consonant to start off with, and then it has one vowel, hirik yod. Taking a look at this one, we have two consonants with a vowel in between. So this one is a closed syllable. And this one likewise. Once we start getting used to this, it'll become more apparent and faster. Oh yeah, consonant, vowel, consonant.
So the yod threw me off. I don't understand how decided that was.
Yeah, so a hirik yod, that yod doesn't have its own pronunciation. It becomes part of that hirik vowel sound.
How do
So-
we know it doesn't have its own sound?
Because it becomes that vowel. Anytime that there's a yod following either a hirik, a single dot, or a yod following a double dot, the tsere, it becomes part of that vowel sound.
Okay.
So
It
that would
stops
be,
being a consonant. It's
Mhm.
just considered a vowel. Just because like that would say me.
Yeah.
And you don't hear the yod at all. So it's you
Yeah,
just hear those.
yeah, this is pronounced me. It's not pronounced me ya. It's just the single vowel sound. Yeah, it takes some practice with it, but that's where I really do love our first vowel chart, because it does help distinguish that a hirik yod and a tsere yod are just one vowel, that the yod drops its consonant status and becomes a companion to that vowel sound.
Isn't there 3 of them that does that on the chart?
Yeah, and there's also like the sagol, right? Sagol yod.
So it's 3 times. So with 2 dots, 1 dot, or 3 dots.
Or that pyramid one. Yeah.
So like you're saying, anytime it's associated, if there's a vowel before it, it's not ever going to be the yod sound. It's just going to be part of the vowel.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the vowel sound at all.
Not the vowel sound.
Mm-mm.
It does, but we haven't learned that yet.
Oh, thanks, Cameron.
Ah,
There's a reason that there's a hirik and there's a reason that there's a hirik yod.
that's what I was going to say. Why don't they just quit doing the yod?
Yeah. There's a reason, but it's
All right.
we've learned the kindergarten form and we're gonna make it to high school next week.
oh, no.
We're gonna skip middle school. Yep.
And grammar school. You're taking us from kindergarten to high-speed high school.
Yeah, I wish I would have known all of that before we started so that I could teach it better and present it in a better way, but we're getting it
We're all learning.
fun. Anyway, I'm working on the slides now to really simplify it and make it an easy transition for us. So hopefully I'll have that all next week. It'll be a breeze. Don't worry about it. All right, so we've taken a look at that. Okay, so here's our second one. That's kind of an interesting one. So here we have a tav with a tsere yod. That tsere yod is one vowel sound. It's a companionship, but it's just one vowel sound. So this one is going to be an open syllable. So this one is pronounced te. Tav with the tsere yod is te. And so it's just one syllable. If it was a closed syllable, it would sound like tate or tave. But this one is just the consonant and one vowel sound, te. All right, so here's a trick one for you. This is the vowel that we learned last week, right? This is a cholam male. And this is a kaf, right? It's got that piece of candy in its mouth. So we've got a ko. And so this vav doesn't pronounce its the sound because it is part of that vowel. It is part of the o. So this is ko, and this is an open syllable. All right, and here is the vowel that we learned this week. So this is zayin and the u sound, zu. And again, this is an open syllable because that vav it's not acting as a consonant, it's acting as a vowel companionship.
Say that again. Read it.
So just like before with the
No.
yod
Just
and
read-
stuff like that, here we
Just
have,
read it. Wait, just read it first. Just read it.
So we have zayin, the z
Uh-huh.
sound, and then the new vowel this week is the u. So this is the shuruk.
So how do you say it? Zoo?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this would be zu.
Zoo. Is this a word?
No. Well, not that I know of anyway. It very well could be because there's lots of Hebrew words that I'm trying to learn every week, but I haven't learned this one
They
So
didn't
it's
have
like that.
zoos back then.
yet.
So is this the only vowel that has, besides yod? Well, the yod is not really, this is the only one that stands alone, looks like a consonant, but it's not a consonant because, no, that's not true because there's two of these.
Yeah.
Mhm. So
There's one that has
every,
little dilly on the top.
yeah, every vowel sound has one form of it that it has a companion consonant that drops its consonant status.
Okay. Sorry, Star Trek was in the other room.
Mhm. No, you're good. All right. So this one. So we've got the mem with the hirik and the kaf. So this is meek. And this is a closed syllable. Okay, so we're going to take a look just a little bit differently and take a look at how many syllables are there in this word. Now, this is just representative of consonants and vowels. We'll start putting in actual Hebrew letters here in a second, but just kind of taking a look at this. So based upon our rules, how would we go about labeling and dividing this out? If we take a look, we can draw a line here. So that CVC is a closed syllable there at the beginning. And what if we were to draw another line right here? Can anybody tell me why that would be wrong?
Because it starts with a vowel, so you have to move it over so that there's a VC in the middle and a CVC on the ends.
Yeah, correct. So we can't have a syllable starting with a vowel. That breaks the rules. So if we put the line here instead, then everything works out. We have an open syllable, or sorry, closed syllable, an open syllable, and another closed syllable. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So there's 3 syllables. And which syllable gets the stress in this case? Because it doesn't already have an accent mark, then we would know that this final syllable gets the stress.
So how would you read this if you're reading these letters pretending it's Hebrew?
So we would read right to left. And so we would read this syllable first, this syllable second, and then this syllable third. And this one would.
Kava, kava.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like I said, we'll start actually putting in some of the Hebrew things here in a second.
So Cameron, is that always a rule that a word, a syllable ending in a consonant? Let's see. It's always a break between the 2 consonants, right? As a syllable.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that rule here in a second of where that always applies. But yes, the last syllable always gets the stress if it's not marked, otherwise marked.
So does this take the hyphen out of our exercises then?
Yeah. So the hyphen that I've been previously using has been trying to kind of get us a little bit used to syllables. But yeah, so we'll start using kind of this system here with an accent above the stressed syllable.
Sorry to make you repeat this. Okay, so you have that stress symbol at the end. Are you saying that's how it would just normally be? The stress would be right there, or are you saying that? So you wouldn't technically need that stress symbol, like that's just how it would
Correct.
be. Oh, I see. Sorry, I missed that part. Okay.
Yeah, so just in this exercise where I say which syllable gets the stress, so we're going to manually put it in because it's not otherwise noted any other syllable that received it. And we'll take a look at a couple other exercises here, but yeah, we're just putting it in there just to kind of get some practice.
So we can see, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So when you're writing Hebrew, that stressed syllable isn't something that is part of the writing. It's just to help us know how to.
It is a part of the writing if there are words that have exceptions to them. Like the word for land or earth is edits. And it has the stress at the beginning. And every time you see the word edits written out, it'll have a stress mark above the first consonant because it's one that it breaks the rule. And so it'll always denote that you need to put the stress on the first consonant. But if there's a Hebrew word and it doesn't have any stress syllable or stress marks above it, then you just assume that the last syllable has a stress. So you're always going up at the end of that word.
So say that again for earth, say that again.
Edits. So
if it, oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Well, so if it didn't have that stress, would it be edits?
Correct.
Or, okay.
Yeah, so let me say it both ways. So the first way that's correct is edits. So we're putting the stress edits at the front versus the wrong way to say it is edits. That edits at the back of the word, the stress at the back of the word is incorrect just because there's different ways that why we put the stress at the beginning. But it kind of follows in English. There's certain words that we just stress at the beginning, and there's certain words that we stress at the end. So if there ever is an exception to the rule, we always mark the stress over top of it. Otherwise, it just follows its normal pattern, the stress at the end.
What about the name Jesus? Because Jesus is sort of a stress at the beginning. Would we put a stress mark if we were spelling that then?
Yeah, so like with Jesus, where in an English context, normally we tend to stress at the end of a word as well, but we instead of saying Jesus, yeah, it would have that mark at the beginning. Yeah, so let's take a couple more examples, kind of getting some practice here. So let's start looking at how to divide this one. So my mom already went ahead and told us one of the rules that we'll get to in a couple slides. But anytime we see two consonants back to back that don't have a vowel in between, we can automatically put a line. There's never going to be a consonant that has, or a syllable that has two consonants without a vowel in between. So here we have CVC.
And CV.
Yeah. So if we were to put one right here, it would be incorrect because we can't start that last consonant with a vowel, right? So it would be like this. So we're going to have a closed syllable, an open, open, and open. We're going to pronounce this word right to left. So this is one, this is the second syllable, third syllable, and fourth. And so it'll be the fourth syllable that gets the accent. All right, so if we're noticing any patterns, that we can always separate any two consecutive consonants that don't have that vowel in between. And we start at the beginning of the word and work our way left and never have a syllable start with a vowel. Okay, so let's try this example. So do we have any double consonants? We don't in this one, so we're going to start right to left. And I typically like to try doing the CVC first, but it automatically breaks a rule. So I erase it and put the line here. And then the next one, I try to do CVC and it doesn't work. So put it like this and everything matches. So we have an open, open, closed. There's 3 syllables and we put the accent on the last syllable or the stress on the last syllable. All right, there's never going to be a Hebrew word this long, but let's try it out doing some of our stuff. So first, let's look at double consecutive consonants. So we've got this one, and this one, and this one. Now we found all those. Let's start right to left and see if anything, if there's any exceptions or makes different rules. So we have a closed and a closed. Now here we have another CVC, but I can't put a line there because it breaks that vowel. So we're going to do this one. And then I'm going to try again to do CVC and it breaks a rule. So we're going to put it here. And then, so we've got 2 opens and a closed. And I'm going to try to do CVC again. Nope, it breaks a rule. So we've got it here. So we've got an open and a closed. Does that make sense? Kind of my process there. I always try to do a CVC and that'll really show me if there's a rule being broken. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And there isn't any existing stress marks. So the last one will get the stress. I need better handwriting, but
we got it.
All right, so there are some interesting things with a Shavah. Remember, we learned last week what a Shavah is. It is these 2 vertical dots. Sometimes it can accompany another vowel. Sometimes it's just by itself. But as we take a look at those, we notice that it throws off some of our rules as we're looking at it. So let's take a look at how we handle Shavahs. So here on the left, let's try breaking apart the syllables with our rules. Are there any consecutive consonants? Here we have a consonant and a vowel. We've got a consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant. So there's not any consecutive consonants. So we're just going to go and start splitting apart these syllables, right? So we've got a consonant and a vowel, got a consonant and a vowel, and then we've got a consonant, vowel, consonant. So here's an open, open, and closed. 1, 2, 3. And since there's not an existing stress, it would have it over this side. So that shava doesn't act as some double vowel or anything. It's just there to shorten the sound that het makes. So this is going to be a ha. You're kind of try to do it as an eighth note rather than a quarter note. Instead of ha and drawing it out, it's a ha. Chami, chametim. I should have these memorized by now, but I don't. But I have to kind of sound it out. Chametim. All right, so let's take a look at this second one. Are there any double or two consecutive consonants? We don't see any. And so we're just going to start at the beginning of the word, work our way left.
Sorry, is the mem and the lamed not a double with the shava?
Yeah, that's what we're going to take a look at. So sometimes it acts as a vowel and sometimes it acts as a shortener. And so,
okay.
Yeah, that it's precisely, it's a really weird rule. So in this left case, the shava doesn't change any of our normal syllable breaking aparts, but this one does. This is one of those exceptions. So if we are splitting here, we have a consonant and a vowel. So we have ma, and then a shava shortens the sound that is above it. So that second mem is a shortened sound. And then we can automatically assume this last one is a closed syllable. And so here, if this were a full syllable here, we would have a consonant with a shortened way. It would be a consonant vowel, right? So in this case, a shava does act as a vowel, even though it's not actually one of the vowels. It's just a shortener, but it does act as one. So here we're going to have 3 open syllables and 1 closed syllable. Does that make sense, how we kind of get there? How this shava is different than this shava?
So it doesn't say, I totally forgot about the shava.
Mhm.
It doesn't say anything, but it essentially kind of a vowel placeholder. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of a vowel placeholder in this case.
Okay.
So let's try sounding this word out. So we have ma, and then this shortened mem is just a sound, but half as short. So mam, la, ha, mamlacha, mamlacha. And so in this case, as we're sounding it out, we realize that this right here is actually just one closed syllable, mom. So we are going to, I wrote those in the wrong way so they didn't erase easy. So we have a closed, open, closed. So we have mam, lacha. So if we, I often remember going back to my English kindergarten days, right? I don't know if it was kindergarten, but clapping out the syllables. So mam, lacha, mam, lacha. There's 3 syllables. Instead of mam, m, lacha, there's not 4 syllables. Since that shava is acting in there, it can be a kind of a placeholder for a vowel, but in our syllable rules, it is just shortening that second consonant and creating a closed syllable.
Can you say it without the shava?
So if we were doing it without the shava, there would be a vowel beneath it. So for example, it would be mama lacha, mama lacha, but this is just mamlacha.
Gotcha. Thank you.
What if you didn't have the Shabbat there? You'd still be saying mom, right?
Correct,
Right.
but that wouldn't be an actual word. It would be grammatically incorrect to not have a vowel underneath of it. So that shava is a placeholder to tell you to take a breath in the middle of that word. Mamlacha.
I see.
Yeah, we'll start getting in and getting more practice with shava. It's definitely one of those weird things that affects the way that words really sound out.
Cameron, you boggle my head how you can learn all this and teach this.
Well, I'm already doing a stellar job already, I tell you.
What a gift you have.
I learn new
Oh my
things each
God.
week and I go to my mom and I'm like, oh no, I learned something new.
No. I still appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let's take a look at, whoops. And I have good slides on all of this so that you can kind of get some practice with shava here. But in regards to syllable separation, shavas under the first consonant of a syllable act as a vowel. So if it's just there by itself without this patah, it's going to act as a vowel. But a shava under a second consonant of a syllable does not act as a vowel. Otherwise, we would have to split it out into its own syllable. So this one is just shortening that second mem, so it's mum instead of ma.
So the first, when it's at the beginning, like that, and it acts as a vowel, will it always have a vowel with it like it does there?
So as far as I can tell, yes, but I haven't, I've been looking through all my flashcards trying to find different words that might just have a shava at the beginning by itself. And I can't see one that would break this rule. So this one's not a hard and fast rule because I just haven't found it yet, but that might change in the future. But as far as I can tell, for now, shavas under the first consonant act as a vowel, and shavas under the second one do not act as a vowel in regards to syllable separation. Yeah, I'm hoping this is clear as mud, but as we do go through, I think we have enough practice when we're sounding out different words, we can kind of get their syllables. And this is just about learning how we would break those up and verify that we are indeed pronouncing them right and putting the stress where it should properly be. If that makes sense. All right. Okay. So are we all good on that? The homework will have quite a bit of exercises to really help drive this home, but you might need a week to really chew on it and think about it and practice with it. But
I feel like I need to print out these slides. Andy, is that, I don't know.
So let me show you the homework exercises because I think those look a little bit better. They're easier to print out and go through this exact same thing. So for worksheet number 6, let's see, practice sounding, distinguish. So not exercise 1. So it's exercise 2, very similar to what we had, right? And exercise 3 is also going to be the same thing. So with exercise 2, the answer key is color coded so that we have open syllables and closed syllables. And then exercise 3, likewise, you'll be able to see the stress, you'll be able to see which ones are open and closed, etc. But there'll be lots of examples to kind of give you some practice. So yes, our slides has all of the written rules on those, and then the homework is to really kind of get some practice with them. But yeah. All right. So if there's not any more questions on that, here's my biggest woe. I was kind of devastated when I found this out a couple weeks ago. And anyway, we're correcting it right now because I apparently was looking at a more modern Sephardic pronunciation rather than the ancient. So there is an acronym called Beged Kefet. And so if we take a look at these 6 consonants, we notice the B, the Gimel, G. Oh, and I should have that D capitalized there. The Dalet, the Chaf or Kaf, the Fe, and the Tav, right? So this Beged Kefet is an acronym for which consonants, there's 6 of them, that their dagesh actually changes the way that they sound. Now, we've already taken a look at bet and vet, and chaf and kaf, and pei and fei we'll learn in a future week, but I thought that only those 3 were ones that actually changed their pronunciation. And they are, but these other 3 do as well, but not in a modern context. In a modern context, especially with Ashkenazi or modern Hebrew, they don't distinguish the sounds between one without a dagesh and one with a dagesh. So this is my big repentance, trying to come back. All 6 of these have different sounds. And so I need to go and change my charts and everything to reflect it. But let's take a look at these, because these sounds are the hardest to pronounce, I tell you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everybody and turn on my original sound so that I can speak into the microphone and you can hear the nuance between everything. Because if I found that when I'm doing plosive sounds directly into the microphone, it will often lose my voice here. So I'm just going to mute everyone real quick, because if I don't mute you, it'll provide feedback into the thing. So you can unmute at any time and talk over me and stuff, and we'll just have to work at that. Let's see, turn on my original sound there. Okay, so can you hear me as I'm in the microphone? You can hear those popping sounds, right? Okay. So let me go through the nuances of these different sounds here. The dagesh actually is, think of it as kind of like a bomb or a plosive sound. So anytime it has the dot, it has a harsh plosive sound. So you can also do this if you want to put your hand in front of your mouth and feel the air coming out as you're doing it. So the difference between bal and vogue, it's the same kind of sound, but one is more harsh. It has a plosive where you force out a lot of air and stop it. So bal as in val. So if we're kind of transitioning, I'm going to start with the plosive sound and kind of slowly transition into the non-plosive sound, the one without a dagesh, just with the same word. So if we're doing b, 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 it kind of loses its plosiveness and transitions into a V instead of a B. This one's a really hard one to get, so don't worry, it'll take some time getting used to the non-dagesh gimel. But if we have the regular gimel, it has a hard G sound, g, as in gourd. But the gimel without a dagesh is pronounced g, g. So we're taking the g and trying to add kind of a TH to it, or a RH rather to it. So try practicing it kind of with your hand in front of your mouth with the hard G, and transitioning to add kind of like a TH or an RH to it. So we have a G, 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 G. You're kind of pulling your tongue up at the back and going into a G, G sound. So G versus G, G, G. It's a little bit softer sound. So all of the ones without a dagesh have a softer sound to them. They kind of add an H or a softness to them. So our dagesh with a dot is a hard plosive sound. It's D as in doll. But when we try to add kind of a TH sound to it, it transitions from D into the, D, 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 the, and it has a softer sound to it. And king versus so we have the Chaf, Kaf, Kaf, and Chaf. And so we've already kind of learned that one, right? K has a hard plosive sound to it. K, k, so it kind of takes that K sound and softens it up and puts it in the back of the throat. You're trying to kind of cut it off. So king versus mach. And then we have pay and fey. So that one we can kind of see the p, p sound, the plosive, versus f, f, f. And then tav, our last one, this is the hard t sound, tav, and it transitions into a th, th, as in thought. It's the Greek theta here. So t and th. So again, just kind of going through those really quickly. We've got b, v, g, r, d, v, k, h, p, f, t, th. Does that make sense? Is that harder than snot? I tell you, when I learned this and I was like, oh no, I've been teaching some of these so wrong. But anyway, in the ancient Sephardic, all
So
6
there-
of these sounded different. No, you're good.
The letters that you have underneath there, what are that? Can you bring the slide back up?
Yeah.
So, under or V, well, the next one over is a upside down R, and then
Yeah, let me show you a website really quick that is super helpful. And I'll put the link in the chat here in just a second. So I always go to this Wikipedia page because it has some sound things to help with things. But if you do a Wikipedia search for Hebrew alphabet or for the Nikud, for the vowel sounds, I found these extremely helpful in correcting my pronunciation here. So, I mean, this is probably going to be over most people's head unless you are super into pronunciations and nuances between the different languages. But there is an IPA kind of universal way to pronounce some of these sounds. So an aleph has like that glottal stop, and it's represented with that symbol there. This gimel, it's actually 2 different sounds and one transitions into the other. And so it starts off with a voiced velar frictive and transitions into a voiced uvular frictive. And so if you were to click on either one of those, you can hear the audio sample here.
Ra, ra,
And how it transitions into this.
ra, ra.
And so again, if you pronounced g and g the same, like Hebrew speakers are going to be understand what you're saying just fine. But if you want the old Sephardic pronunciation and distinguishing between what a dagesh sounds like versus without a dagesh, this is going to be kind of helpful. And so that kind of loopy upside down A looking thing is kind of the transliteration, and it is representative of the GH sound as in the Arabic ghul. So G and G. Does that make sense? Did I explain
Need to
what that
expand this
IPA is?
part a little more.
Yep. So again, yeah, if it is too much and some of these sounds are just never going to come off your tongue very well,
Oh my
just
gosh.
knowing that they exist and that there is a difference between G and G is we don't have to be super fluent at this point. I mean, we're just barely starting. We're just getting our feet wet. But if you do want to get good at pronunciation, I find this IPA on this Wikipedia page very helpful. And again, I'll put that in the comments. I'm working on my slides and flashcards and things for next week for those that are interested in getting some more practice with the pronunciation there and those differences between the Beged Kefets. But yeah.
So Cameron, I sent you something really interesting in Messenger. Did you see it?
Probably, but I might not have responded. Let me take a look at it. What was
The
it again?
circle. It's the circles of Hebrew that has all this in it, but then there's another like a pictograph part of it.
Oh, it was something that somebody had posted somewhere, wasn't it? Like on
Uh-huh.
say Institute or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you notice that the arms raised, like there's like some temple symbolism in it, it seems to me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So sharing what she's talking about here on the Isaiah Institute Facebook page, somebody is talking about the Mazarot, kind of the Hebrew astrology, or kind of a look at the stars and how they correspond with the tribes and different things.
Boy, Satan sure has hijacked so much stuff, hasn't he? Oh my heck.
Yep. And so as we take a look at some of the consonants that we're aware of, again, there's gematria in there, they're associated with numbers, but there's also some of these ancient pictographs. And so we're going to start learning those later on this year, but like that number 5, what she's referencing, there's like the ancient pictograph of Hey, that sound is a little guy with his arms raised.
What is the center part then? Did you figure that part out?
Yeah, so these are representative of the different planets. So the different signs like Aries and Sagittarius and Libra and all that kind of stuff. Like as you dive into astrology, like actually reading your natal charts and everything, you'd be able to pick up on those.
LAGZ.
Look like
Yeah, Ellie Dezette has a fantastic course on that. If anybody's interested, I can hook you up with all 12 classes on those, but she goes through all of the houses and what each of the planets would mean when they're in your rising and all of that. But yeah, it's
So
very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, where am I at? Okay, so getting some practice with Beged Kefet. So I've turned my original sound off, so hopefully you can kind of hear some of my plosives and things, but put your hand to your mouth and feel the difference between B and V.
But now that one we learned right.
Yeah, we learned 3 of them correctly. We just didn't learn the other 3 correctly. And so now we're going back and correcting our little mistake there. So again, correct is kind of a loose term because it still is correct. It's just a more modern dialect of it. And so I really want to focus myself on the ancient dialect so that I know why one has a dagesh and why one doesn't. Why would you even use it? Why would it be there if it didn't have a purpose in the pronunciation. So I prefer to go back to the ancient and pick that nuance back up. So yeah, we learned 3 of them right, and these other 3 we're just going to take our modern and put it back a few centuries. All right, and so again, put your hand to your mouth, feel the plosive is in gourd versus r. G, r. You're trying to kind of stop the airflow. You're raising the tongue in the back of your throat, kind of feeling the cavity there and cutting it off, kind of adding a soft to it. G,
That's a good way to describe it, Cameron, because some of the words in Hebrew that we've been doing, I don't identify with the words, but because I lived in the Middle East for 4 years, I've heard these sounds.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
one of my favorite Middle Eastern foods is baba ganoush, which is
Uh-huh.
with the GH. I'm just
Mhm.
realizing, oh, so when I make that sound, I always use the back of my throat more. So
Mhm.
that for me is what cues that sound. It's not in the front of the mouth. It's really more, it's softer in the back, close to the tonsils.
Yeah. Yeah. G, r, baba ganoush. Yep, exactly. D, the. K, h.
Now that one we learned right, the K and
Yeah, K and H.
yeah, we got that one right.
P and F. I mean, this one is right, but we haven't learned it yet. It's in a couple weeks, but. And then T and Th. So just remembering that anytime it has the little beauty mark in the middle, the dagesh, the little bomb plosive looking thing, it has a harder sound, and you can actually feel it more on your hand, versus the ones without it have a softer kind of H sound to them, and they're more in the back of your throat. So here's some exercises taking the vowel that we did this week and putting these new sounds. So we have boo versus voo. We have g and r. Do, thu. K, h. Poo and foo. T and th. And here, if we're trying to put both of them in the same word, so we've got one with a dagesh at the beginning and one without a dagesh at the end. So we've got boov. This one's really hard. Try making that sound. So here we have the harsher plosive sound at the beginning, and we have the softer in the back. I probably should have put a different vowel with this one because this is kind of a hard one to do, but g, g, g. It's pretty hard. This one, so we're starting off soft, and then we're gonna go harder at the end. So this one is food.
Is it a soft th or is it like this?
Uh-huh.
Thu.
So look at how you're pronouncing a D sound. Look at where the tip of your tongue is. It's kind of hitting right behind your teeth, up toward the back there. Duh, duh, duh. But you bring your tongue down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So if we're just doing your tongue is kind of in between your teeth. It's more pronounced, kind of clenching in between the. So the dalet that has a dagesh is kind of in between a D and a TH. It's just right. Your tongue's moving down just a little bit, making that softer sound, but it's not quite a full TH theta sound.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this one's kind of hard. So we've got the hard k sound, and so kach, kach. My transliteration is down below. Don't quite do it justice, but kach. And then poof, poof. And then this one starts off harder. So tough, tough. So this one is the total TH sound. Your tongue's kind of in between your teeth, kind of clenched there. Tough. All right, so that's it for today. Is that enough? So we've talked about syllables and talked about the pronunciations there. So when we're looking at the worksheet, exercise 1 is sounding out the words and making sure to distinguish the pronunciation between the different dagesh that we have. So just what we did, that's exercise number 1. Exercise number 2 is taking a look at practicing separating out consonant vowel combinations into those syllables. And again, highlighting open versus closed syllables differently, adding accent marks, just like we did in our class today. And then exercise 3 is just like exercise 2, except that we're doing it with actual Hebrew words. So all of these are real Hebrew words, and down in the answer key, I've highlighted the syllables differently. So open syllables are yellow, closed syllables are blue. Now that may not print out if you only have like a grayscale printer or just printing in black and white, but you'd be able to see it on your screen and mark it appropriately on your paper. But anyway, yeah. Do you want to go through any of the exercises? Do you have a preference on 1, 2, or 3? What you would want to kind of get some practice with right now? Any questions, comments, concerns?
When you label the worksheets, can you put like 6 on all of them?
Yes. So like at the top of each page
Yeah,
of the worksheet?
I'm confused.
Lesson 6.
Yeah, just do like lesson 6 or whatever. I
So
already printed it
like-
out, so it doesn't matter for me, but I think it'll be helpful.
yeah, so like if I were to do that as well, but also doing exercise like 6.1 so that it denotes what lesson it's coming from and what exercise it is. And you know,
Yeah.
this is like 6.2 as well. And then I would
Right.
put it up at the top as far as lesson 6 on every page, so that if
That'd be
you're printing them
awesome.
out and stuff and getting them confused from week to week and stuff, that would be very helpful. Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Thank you.
Can you show me again how you get to those? You had those printouts. I think Laura held one up with the vowels. You said you were going to like update it, but I went to find that to print it and I couldn't.
Yeah, for sure.
find it.
So and if this doesn't work, because I've had a few people email me just going, trying to learning Zion is a little too difficult. So some of the things are, if you need me to just email it to you, I can do that as well. But if you just navigate to the Hebrew group, either on the side there on the left, or where I clicked just barely down in the actual page. And once you get here, everything is listed by week that we've done. But up here in the extras, I've added an extra week here. And this has just everything that isn't necessarily tied to one given week is kind of in this section here. So installing the keyboard, the introduction, Aleph Beth songs, etc. But in this charts and worksheets category here, if you want to just download all of them all at once, you can just click on these 4 blue buttons and download everything. But I've got the images with a background if you want them to look a little bit cooler. I don't know if they're that much cooler, but I've also got white versions down here that can print off a little bit easier. And then there's the actual keyboard maps down here if you're wanting to get some typing practice with it. And then the actual handwriting worksheets are also down on that page. So every single chart that I make, I'm putting in there. But again, with our vowels, we're gonna see that one change a little bit. I'm so sorry for making people waste printer, paper, and ink and all this kind of stuff, but I'm learning, and we're trying to get things a little bit better for us. So that vowel chart's going to change. And then I had one correction to make on this Aleph Beth chart, but
Okay, awesome.
I have a question about learning Zion. If you mark it complete, can you go back in it again? I'm always afraid to mark it complete.
oh yeah, it's totally. So like, for example, this one, when I click mark complete here down at the bottom, when I go back into that, it'll give me that little complete button up at the top. But if I go back down, I can always go back and mark incomplete and take it back off. Yeah, so those buttons are just to help you kind of keep organized so that when you're on this home screen of it, you can kind of see where you
Where
left
you're at.
off and where you need to go. So like, for example, in week 4, oh, okay, I've got all of my circles filled in, I'm done. This one I don't have, but let's see, do I have any of the weeks that are mixed? I don't. I went through and completed all of them, but it helps me keep organized as soon as I mark something done. But if I ever need to go back and be like, oh no, I marked that incorrect, so I go and take off that little circle there.
And your awesome quiz, if you drop the words off, can you still go back and pick them up?
Sorry, what was that again? On the quiz?
Uh-huh. That flashcard quiz thing that you have. If you drop one off, if you mark it. as-
Oh, gotcha. Yes, on the actual flashcards here. So if you push that, you flipped one of the cards and you marked it as I've got it, it'll take it out until you've went through all 28 of them, unless you catch it right away. If you catch it right away, you can just click the back button and it'll go right back to that one and you can mark it as needs more practice. But if you're already 2 or 3 ahead and you want to go back, it won't let you until you go through all of the deck, and then you can restart the whole thing. Or you
do
can
it as
just
many times as you
refresh the
want.
page. Mhm.
You can keep doing it. It'll keep coming back like the lessons. It'll still be there.
Oh yeah. You can do the flashcards every time that you come to it again. It's not going to like save your place at all. And so if you refresh the page or you went somewhere else, when you come back, it'll just start over the whole deck again and give you another shot at it. If you mark it complete, you can still go back. The mark complete is just filling in that little circle is all.
It's an incredible site. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people have had some issues with it. Different browsers behave differently to it, so I'm trying to get some of that stuff corrected. But hopefully, it creates a good flow and puts things in a good order. But I'm always open to suggestions. If you have issues with it, text me what's happening and what we can do to make it better. But
So I have another question. I haven't done the keyboard yet.
Mhm.
Is like a big deal.
no, that's just if you're wanting to be able to type. Some of those keyboard exercises are going right along with it, so that as you're learning how to write an Aleph, you can also learn how to type it at the same time, kind of a thing. That's how I like to learn. But if that's not really a big priority, like it's totally skippable. You don't have to type in Hebrew. Most of it is just recognition, being able to see it, and kind of the muscle memory of writing it out.
Okay, it's just another way to learn it.
Yeah.
Is there a time I'm going to need to type out Hebrew?
Just if you're wanting to like chat with people like on Facebook and get help and be like, hey, how do you pronounce this kind of a thing? It would be handy to have that printout chart of the Hebrew characters so that you can like, oh, okay, the Aleph is here, and type out your message, kind of hunt and peck for it. But especially with me where I'm creating slides like 24/7 now, like I need to have it memorized. I need to know exactly where those keys are at all times, kind of thing.
Okay. I love your slides, so I think I'm good for now. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, it's totally skippable, optional. There we go. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and say goodnight and transition into our other group. But yeah, it's been fun.
Wow, thank you,
Hard lesson.
Cameron.
Yep. All right. We'll see y'all next
Awesome.
week.
Thank you. You did it well. Bye.
All right. So for this next group, gonna take a quick 2-second break. Come back. I've got to call somebody back on the phone real quick. Hello, sorry I'm a little late. So we're putting on our big family history expo here for Seven Stakes, and people are calling me like I have like 20 missed calls just during our last class. So sorry about that. But anyway, I'm gonna put everything on silent and we'll get to business.